So here we are, it's across from the sign, and I'm here to show you the birch and the different stages that it'll go through. Right now this tree just fell, so what you're going to feel is it's going to be hard on the outside. What you're going to need to do is to wait a year, and what will happen is the birch bark will deteriorate, and so then you'd be able to separate it. And that's what I do when I bring along the saw, is I cut around. So I cut all the way around, and then I'm able to separate this ring and take it off like this. And so then this will be the finished product, but this is how it looks when you start. So it's always important to remember that you have to wait a year and then come back. And what I usually do is that what I'll do is I'll take the birch and I'll elevate it. So then what will happen is it will deteriorate from the inside, and then next year when I come back, I'll be able to separate the bark from the tree and use that as the material to make these baskets. And then I usually look for cedar trees, because you have to rest the cedar bark for a while too before you use it. You have to let it age a little bit, and then you have to keep it soaked. And after that you can cut it into 1/4 inch strips and use that to secure your basket, to make it a lot tougher and to make it last longer. Aleck, good morning. My name is John Aleck Sr. Today I'm with Byron Spinks, and we're going to be showing you how I make my birch bark baskets. And we'll show you some of the tools that I use and some of the things that I use to decorate. Like this is a lichen. And these are the tools that I use. I've got a hole punch, which makes the holes. I've got a knife, which I use to separate the birch bark from the actual wood. I've got a hook needle that I use to sew. And I've got a saw that I use to cut off the birch from the actual log. This is artificial sinew, which is what I use. And I also use cedar bark, which I have soaking right now, and I use that to toughen up the edges around the top and the bottom. On the bottom, I put I put cedar bark on the inside and the outside to support the bottom. I also line it with a cloth that I have just to make it that much nicer. I use the big birch bark for the bottoms. I usually put the birch bark on top and then draw around it. And then I cut it out, and that's what makes it on the bottom. One of the things that I do is that I steam these on a steamer on the stove, and I do that, and then I put a plastic bag in here and I fill it up with rice, and what that does is it rounds it off so that it's a one solid round piece like this instead of being at an angle like this one. So what I'll do today is I'll show you how I put that. I've started, and we'll steam it, and then tomorrow Byron can show you the finished product. Okay. This is how I start the baskets. I've got a piece of cedar bark here. This one is kind of wrinkled because I braided it so I could get a unique braid on it instead of just being a straight piece like these ones are. So, in starting a basket, we've already got the holes that are pre-drilled. I put the cedar bark on here, and then I grab my hook needle with the sinew, and I go through the hole, and I always start with the top. So what I do is that I'll leave a couple of extra holes here behind it with this end here. So when I add on another piece, I'm able to fold it down on top and then bind it together like that. So, having said that, I knot it on. And and then I start going one way. Bring it through. And I always do it the same way, inside and out, so I don't cross. So then you do that all the way around. And you see, with this hook needle, it saves a lot of time. Instead of having a straight needle, back in the day they used to use make a needle from a leg bone of a deer. They would use a sliver of the bone, or sometimes they would use fish bones for needles. And if you see the fish bones, the sockeye are smaller and the spring salmon are bigger, so they could have a variety of different needles. And because of some of the things that we do, they all need needles. We're very innovative in the use of our natural materials. So that's how it is. And if you see, what I would do is I'd go all the way around and finish it going this way. And then with the sinew, I'd come back the opposite way. And so what happens then is that you're going to get a cross stitch. And the cross stitch strengthens up the whole basket. So that's what you do on the top. You only need the one. And so you'll get a nice good cross stitch, and it looks pretty nice on there. So then on the bottom what you do is I'd take one of these and I'd take another one from the inside and I'd hold it, and I would do the exact same thing. I'd hold them both here, leap a bit at the end, and then start right there, and then go around, and I would do it all the way around, making sure that they're all the holes are covered. And then that adds more support for the bottom. As you can see, the bottom, it's pretty rigid, and when you have a cross stitch on there, it adds strength to it, and it's able to put up with some weight. And that's how you do the stitching. It's a very easy process. And what I would like to do in the summertime is I'm going to get some bark, and then we'll use that for the binding instead of the sinew. So then it's a more traditional basket. This is one of the small bowls trays that I made. This one I just completed about a few days ago. And this is the one that I finished for Alice Spinks. And then she just loaned it to Byron so that you could see some of the work that I've done. I've also got some pictures of some big baskets that I've made with Dr. Rosalind Miles. And I just wanted to say Stem for having the opportunity to share my knowledge with each and every one of you, especially Tukwimuch Village, where this video will be on display, and we'll be doing some workshops down there this summer. So if any of you are interested in learning how to make baskets, we're going to have a couple of different types of workshops down there this summer, and I'm really excited about that possibility, and I'm already gathering resources to hold such a workshop. So in all, I just wanted to say thanks for having this opportunity, and I hope that you learned something, and that you go out and you actually get some birch bark and start creating some of your own design. Almost.